Hello, and welcome to the AppleInsider Podcast. I'm your host, Wes Hilliard, and I'm joined once again by William Gallagher. Our sponsors this week are Aura Frames and Copilot Money. And this week, if you don't want to hear about ads, we have Apple Insider Plus, which you can subscribe to via Apple Podcasts or Patreon, and we're going to be discussing what we would do if we could take control of any division at Apple. That could even be CEO, or maybe we just want to be the leader of the Apple Car team, where William can finally make it blue and release. So we'll get into that in the post-show after the music plays. But of course, if you are not a paying member, you're going to hear all of our ads and the usual stuff. So William, how are you doing today?
I'm fine. The instant you say that about running Apple, I want to run Apple Macs, the cafe in Apple Park. I don't know what their menu's actually like, but it needs more chocolate. Okay, so there you go. I'm done. Otherwise, how are you?
Oh, I'm great. I've heard their breakfast selection is actually very good. I would love to eat there sometime. Maybe I'll get to go to a WWDC or something. But
I actually heard Johnny Ive talk about watching pizzas being cooked because you could see through a vent doing it, and I just love the detail of that. So let's pop over there.
I'll take one of their pizza boxes home.
Okay, deal.
So first off, there's been multiple large leaks this week, which are interesting. I don't even know if this one's a leak. I think this is more of is probably, again, the information. They've been kind of coming out with these larger reports. Maybe it's an end-of-year thing they like to do, but this is one of several information reports that they've been putting out, kind of summarizing larger stints of Apple. And I wanted to have this conversation because it's interesting to me. Apple could get to the point where they're releasing 7 iPhone models a year.
Right, actually, can I stop there? Because I saw that headline on Apple Insider, and I've been counting on my fingers. I can't get to 7. I can only make 6. What am I missing? What are we going to get?
You have to break out the Plus.
Oh.
Yes.
I didn't realize there'd be a Plus.
That was my mistake, too. No. I'm sorry. Did we get rid of the Plus altogether?
The Plus was kind of replaced by the Air 2.
Yeah, that's right.
But everyone's saying 7, and I'm thinking,
okay.
It's only 7. I should hold this in my head, but I'm failing for some reason.
So this is 2027, not 26. 26 will be nominally a regular year-ish, because early in 26 we're going to get the iPhone 16e, and I'm sorry, the iPhone 17e,
right.
And alongside, nothing. I think the spring is just the 17e, and then the fall will only be the Pro phone, so 18 Pro, 18 Pro Max.
17 Pro, 17.
See this.
I'm going to have to write this down,
yes,
aren't we? Sorry.
I'm reading. No. We have a 17 right now.
Oh, yeah, sorry. It's because I didn't upgrade. I'm just going to be quiet. That's what I'm going to be. Okay.
Yes, no, we are currently on the 17. The next phone is the 18, but the 17e comes next. So 17e in the spring, that's the budget phone. And then in the fall, the 18 Pro, 18 Pro Max. And that's it. No 18 base model. Also, apparently, the iPhone Fold is coming in fall 2026. I'm still waiting for the inevitable punt. Everyone seems really confident this time, but I'm going to say they've been confident before. I don't know. There is a lot of evidence this time that it is at least possibly being made, but I wrote a story in 2020 that Samsung was literally making the displays for the iPhone Fold, right? I know that it seems to be at a fever pitch and that it seems inevitable, but I'm telling you, listener, that this has all happened before. Maybe not at this pitch, but we have had this feverish, it's coming before. And we so easily forget because more interesting news comes along and replaces it. Anyway, so the 3 phones this fall would be the Pro, Pro Max, and the Fold. No Air update. But then you would go to the spring of 27, and this is where we get to 7 phones per year, apparently. I'm still trying to do the math. But the spring would be the base model iPhone 18, and then the iPhone 18e, and possibly the iPhone Air 2. That's 3 phones. And then the fall of 27 would be the iPhone 19 and the iPhone. So this is where we're going to get weird. Apple's probably going to release the iPhone 20 the same way it did the iPhone 10 for its 20th anniversary. So instead of a 19, we might get a 20, or we'll get a 19 and a 20, where the 19 is just a reflection of what we have now, and the 20 is a future phone. But either way, there's going to be a base phone, a high-end phone, and an iPhone Fold 2, basically an iterated iPhone Fold. So that is still 6 phones. My guess is the 7th phone is a second tier somewhere in there that we're missing. I'm going to look at our report. Maybe we miscounted, but it's still a lot of phones. 6 or 7. Hush, kids. I know. It's one of those.
Sorry, I had to think about that. Yes, okay. I'm seeing 7 listed everywhere. I should.
I feel like the math is not mathing. We're missing a phone here. I'm going to look. iPhone Air 2, maybe 2 versions of the iPhone 20. That still doesn't make sense. Someone tell us what we're miscounting here, but because it's currently we have the iPhone 17, the iPhone Air, the iPhone 17 Pro, iPhone 17 Pro Max. That is 4 devices. iPhone 16e makes 5, and so we're going to add 2 more. One of them being the Fold. Yeah, there's some mystery phone that's missing. Unless we're counting the iPhone 20, iPhone 20 Pro, and then there's a base, iPhone 19. So there's an extra phone in there that we're missing. I do believe it's one of the second tiers. So it'd be like if we had an iPhone 19, iPhone 20, iPhone 20 Max, right? Something like that. It's just not named in the report. So that's what's messing us up. Anyway, it doesn't matter. 7 iPhones in a year. What do you think of that? Is Apple making too much?
I wonder if they're actually being really clever with how they spread it, because you mentioned the fact that there might be a 20 in the anniversary and how it was like the 10. When the 10 came out, they actually skipped the 9, didn't they? So they had the 8 and the 10 in the same thing. But there were 2 versions of the 8 for it, so there's precedent for that. I just remember thinking Apple did such a big job of how great the 8 and the 8 Plus, I think it was called, were. I mean, you would want that phone, and then they just trashed it by saying how much better the 10 is. And you come away thinking the only benefit to the 8 is that it was slightly cheaper. So
Touch ID. People really like that Touch ID button.
Right. It's a funny world. But I think maybe they've just got really wise to exactly who is buying what, and they're plugging a phone into every conceivable demographic for it. But they're still not the same as Android, are they, with like 5,000 phones per year and things?
So no exaggeration, there is several hundred Android OEMs, and each of them make multiple phones. There are... if not 1,000, a multiple thousand Android phones that you can buy at any moment across the world. Of course, markets isolate those and they get diffused. A lot of them are online only. When you walk into a Walmart, there isn't 1,000 phones available. There's 8, but usually some sort of Samsung. Again, the most popular phone usually in Android is like a Samsung J20 line, whatever. I don't know what the modern version of that is. This might be a 4-year-old phone I'm talking about, but generally speaking, that J line, that cheap line, that's like $199 for a smartphone, is the most popular in Android. There's a lot like it. Xiaomi's very popular. There's just so much to choose from, and people say that's an advantage of Android, whereas I think that's from a consumer standpoint, it's an advantage because user choice. But from a technological standpoint, it's awful because of fragmentation, and we have seen it for the last decade of Android. It can't support all hardware all the time, and developers have to choose where they're going to go. So what do they choose? They choose the most popular Samsung models. They build their app as if it's going to run on a Galaxy, whatever, or a Pixel, and say if it runs weird on your device, buy a better device. Is basically their standpoint. So that fragmentation will always be there. Android's done a good job of trying to fix that and force apps to better mold to different devices and shapes, especially these oblong foldable phones. But it's not the ecosystem Apple has. where it's completely vertically integrated, where the software is built to match the hardware exactly.
Yeah. I don't understand how anybody copes with Android. I mean, look at me. I'm struggling when we're talking about 6 or 7 iPhones. So I wouldn't know where to start. I would probably buy Samsung too. Yeah.
Yeah. From paying attention to places like Android Central and The Verge, they pick a couple of favorites and just stay there. It's not like if you're an Android person, like we cover Apple. If you're someone who covers Android, you don't cover every phone because you would lose your mind. You'd have to do a podcast every minute. Especially I remember back in the day when there was really this fire of Android versus Apple. Where's the iPhone killer? This was 2016, 2017, and there was a new Android phone every week with a new gimmick that was going to kill the iPhone. And I would say that was the fastest moving Android has ever been as far as needing to cover everything. It's just not the case today. Most of these flagship phones from big companies are nearly identical in almost every aspect, except maybe their cameras are aligned differently or do something differently. But yes, you just pick the ones that your team aligns with the most, or that your readers align with the most. And like The Verge, they worship the Pixel, but it makes sense because every Pixel buyer on Earth, I think, reads The Verge and exclusively. There's some weird demographic there. And then Android Central seems to, Pixel, Samsung, stuff like that. So like even MKBHD, like he sticks with his Pixel phone, but he also covers, a couple of Androids, but he doesn't get too far out of pocket. Anyway, for us though, having 7 iPhones in a single year, it's nowhere near Android. It's nowhere near even Samsung. I think Samsung has 40 different devices that it makes. It doesn't update all of them every year, but I know at least 8 or 9 of them are updated near annually. So it's interesting. The reason why Apple is doing this, apparently, and I'm skeptical about this whole situation. I really am. And I'll get to that in a second. But the reason why pundits are saying Apple wants to move to this rotation is because right now, other than the spring random phone that we get sometimes, or a color update in the spring, Apple announces everything they're going to release in September, and they get a huge boost in their sales and numbers through December, and then things flatten out and reduce until the next June, July. So what this is supposed to do is take that one big boost and average it across the year, so that instead of you'll get multiple smaller boosts that has a more steady log line of growth right now. Because if you ever go look at the year-to-year charts that we make, so a year-over-year revenue change chart, it goes low, medium, medium, peak, low, medium, medium, peak for every fall, winter. Whereas now this would basically flatline it, but on a slightly upward trajectory, which looks better in graphs, I guess. Does Apple need to do this?
I imagine that gives them more capacity. There's got to be a physical limit to how many devices anyone can make and ship. So if they are spreading it around a bit, maybe there's more room to do more of the Maxes and things in the end of the year.
Well, it's also so. Here's my for, and then I'm going to get to my against. Because I don't really know that this is going to happen. I don't really know who's been saying this. It's like 2 different people, and I think everyone's just grabbed onto it and said, "Yeah, this is happening." And I'm sure supply chain is reflecting this, but there's also other reasons. Apple tends to see, when they announce their new phones in September, until about December, the Pro and Pro Max is their best-selling model. Huge margins, bestseller. And then starting around January through May, it's the regular phones start creeping up until they become the most popular device. And then ultimately the base model becomes the bestseller out of the bunch. Sometimes it's head and head with the Pro Max, because the Pro Max is fairly popular, especially places like China. But generally speaking, that spring cycle brings the base models forward quite a bit. So what looks like is Apple's meeting customers where they are. They're going to release the Pro phones when they're popular and the base phones when they're popular. But I don't think that's true either. I think everyone's buying all the phones. It's just more people buy the Pro phones until everyone who can possibly buy a Pro phone has bought one. And then there's this long tail on base model because of it being more inexpensive and carrier deals that carry into the new year, especially Chinese New Year, Valentine's. There's a lot of promotions that go on. So I think there's a possibility that these analysts are misreading the tea leaves a little bit.
Okay. That does sound like it's possible regular iPhone users will be disappointed to not have a new one in that September.
I think they would be very frustrated because Apple is not going to come out on stage and say, hey guys, you know that iPhone 18? We're not announcing it today. Just wait till spring. It's gonna confuse a lot of customers. And this is one of those Band-Aid moments where you either have to rip it off and get it over with or just never do it. Apple's the never do it company. I think they're content with making all the money in the world. It is a bit confusing to me as a gambit here to suddenly go 18 months on a cycle and then annual again. I know it's not that long. They're not going to announce the 18 in the fall and then not release it to the spring either. Because again, the iPhone 17 base model still sells really well. And it's going to be an interesting year because there's not going to be an iPhone Air or an iPhone Plus. It's just going to be the iPhone. So maybe it does need to move to the spring. And like there's so many arguments for and against it. We'll just have to see what Apple does. My take here is, though, that Apple is moving the supply chain around to fit the demand cycle, less so to change how it's releasing iPhones. Again, this might have been a plan for years that they're getting to. This might be a full-on, this is Tim Cook's last major gambit, right? But it's still odd to me. Like, normal people don't pay that much attention, so I can see this working. They know the iPhone gets announced. It's this big spectacle. Apple invites everyone on social media to watch, even if they don't care about iPhones. And people do watch. It's very popular. Millions of people tune into the live coverage.
Yeah.
So maybe it wouldn't be that confusing for them to just come out and say, here's the iPhone 18 Pro and iPhone 18 Pro Max, iPhone Fold, and then walk off the stage and leave it at that. Because most of the world's just going to walk into a Verizon and say, give me the latest iPhone. That's the cheapest. And they're going to hand them an iPhone 17e.
So you see the presentation ending with a one fewer thing could have announcement.
I don't think Apple's going to acknowledge it. I think they're just going to announce their Pro phones, put them out in the world, and then have people scratching their heads of like, all right, where's the iPhone Air? Where's the iPhone base model? Where are these things? But then there's another problem. iPhone Air isn't meant to be updated annually either, at least seemingly, because it's not an iPhone 17 Air.
Yeah.
But this rumor places it as an annual update in the spring. I don't... There's too many contradicting things happening here.
The one thing I think you miss is that there is a slight precedent for this, and Apple did move the iPhone launch. I can't remember when it was, but the first few, or these first couple of years were it was June or July they came out. I think it was June, and then they moved to September. So that's not quite the same, but they pulled that off to the extent that I can't remember until you said it was 2010. So in the long run, it could work if it happens.
I get flatlining the year, but I don't think that's going to change anything, because what's going to end up happening then is everyone who wants to buy a new iPhone in the fall who has an annual update is going to either upgrade to the iPhone 17 or iPhone 18 Pro Max, iPhone 20, whatever year we're talking about. They're going to upgrade to the highest end model, and then the people who are holding on to iPhone 15s who are waiting for this particular update cycle are going to end up buying last year's iPhone thinking it's the new one.
Wow.
And then iPhone 18 is going to get announced in the spring. The people who already upgraded are going to feel, cheated 4 months later. And then this being a spring off update cycle, everyone who does buy in the spring is lucky that they waited till the spring, but it's going to create, I think, chaos. Maybe only for the 1 year, but there is something about this regularity, this schedule, that works in Apple's benefit. And breaking it even for one small cycle just to shift things forward 6 months for a couple of models, that could be devastating for its consumer base.
I'd like to explain. I did just laugh then when you said about people buying the 17 and being disappointed, just because I could picture the kind of a Scooby-Doo moment of the 18 comes out and there's another new iPhone. That's what I was laughing at rather than disappointment, obviously.
Remember, consumers are fairly simple creatures. Like, remember when the iPhone changed? I'm not trying to insult them. This is true.
Let's go with it's not consumers' job to follow Apple releases. How about that? They have other things to do.
I'm going for the Men in Black. Is that it's not a person can be smart, but people are stupid creatures.
Okay,
right. That's what I'm going for. A group of people, the herd, as it were. When the iPhone switched from 30-pin, was it the iPhone? Am I changing history? They changed ports. Yeah. The iPhone 4 went from the 30-pin. I for some reason my brain rejected the idea that an iPhone ever had a 30-pin connector for a moment there.
It does seem crazy, but yes.
We shifted
from 30-pin to Lightning.
Yes. And then every joke for history for the next 8 years was Apple changes their ports every day. They did it one time. They did it once. And then the MacBook added USB-C and then slowly removed USB-A. And the joke, I can't remember who it was. It must have been College Humor, did a parody video of Johnny Ive introducing a different charger midway through the commercial just to make everyone angry.
I didn't see that.
It was an excellent joke. Very funny. But
yeah,
Apple doesn't change things like but people grab onto these memeable concepts, and now we're looking at Apple's going to screw around with the customers and release iPhones willy-nilly now. We don't know what's happening. And because, again, like, change one little thing about an environment and chaos ensues.
Okay. I was just wondering whether Samsung has ever shuffled things around. I realize it must be possible to find out, but I don't know.
So Samsung, they're pretty chaotic in their own way, but again, Android is a very different beast. Like, think of iPhone buyers like little bunny rabbits nestled in their dens, right? They're comfortable, they're warm, and if you spook them, they're going to sprint away. Whereas Android is more of a, like, fend for yourself kind of creature living in the wild, battling our way through wilderness or whatever, where they don't care. They just want a phone. They want something that works. They're going to grab the latest Samsung. They're going to grab. They just don't care. And Samsung's events,
I want to be an Android user now. Although until you said that bit of it, they want one that works. Well, that pulls me back to iPhone. But okay, these are very, very broad descriptions. But
yeah,
yes.
I mean, I may be wrong, but this is my impression of the market. But Samsung does announce a range of phones in the spring and a range of phones in the fall. Pixel has done similar, where they bring out Pro phones, and then a few months later they bring out the cheaper version of those Pro phones with some compromises, and those generally sell better because of the price. So this isn't unusual in the market. Apple is the one who doesn't do this so far, which is why there's an argument why they should do it, because the rest of the market does it. But my argument is maybe they shouldn't, because they are unique in the fact that it is once a year. It is predictable. It is safe. It aligns up with carrier contracts. It lines up with purchase programs. It makes sense. And the minute that you start splitting things down the middle, man, people were confused over whether they should buy an iPhone Air or iPhone Pro. Imagine if they have to make this decision twice a year. People are going to start calling Apple Android and start waving their hands in the air like a Muppet. Like, this is just my perception. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we should trust consumers more than that, but I don't know.
Well, I think we should, but my concern, until you said that about Samsung releasing Pro and then unpro versions. I was just seeing Apple comes out with the Pro version. This is great. This is the best iPhone we've ever made. And then in the spring, here's one that isn't as good as last year's, but see if you like it. That felt like it was quite a down message. But if it's precedent...
When I first heard this rumor, I thought it was going to be the other way around. I thought the spring would be the new iPhone 18, and then the fall would be the iPhone 18 Pro Max, right? That makes more sense. But to start with the more expensive phones and then release the cheaper phones later, again, which is what the rest of the market does currently, I don't know.
But there's an argument that the Christmas, the holiday season is the biggest for all phones. So Apple selling their most profitable phones, then that would make sense to me. Yeah.
I just don't fully understand the argument of we need to chop first of all, we need to have 7 iPhones and we need to distribute them twice a year instead of once a year. Now, I get it for the sake of keeping a keynote short, or maybe they need to do 2 keynotes or change how they do their event cycles, or this is their solution. They're like, well, we're releasing so many devices now, it needs to happen twice a year. Maybe the spring iPhones are press releases, which is kind of insane to think about. An iPhone not getting a keynote event, which I can already hear the articles being written about how Apple is doomed and no one cares about iPhone anymore.
Yes.
It's just...
In fact, actually, we should get ahead and write some now.
We should go ahead and write
so we're ready. Yeah. Okay. I think it's production practicality as well has got to be an issue. There's a physical limit to orders, and presumably if you have more
there's
launch
also
dates.
a limit to human beings on Earth. Who are buying phones. It doesn't matter if Apple can make 1 billion iPhones. Are they selling 1 billion iPhones? They're selling every one they can make, but they still have inventory by the end of the year. Yes, they sell it very quickly at the front, but Apple still has so much headroom, so much space on all of their models that even if you have to wait a week or two, you're waiting a week or two, not months. This isn't the Nintendo Switch that can only make 100,000 units for some reason, right? Apple has this design, like so many, the logistics arguments for shifting to twice a year make sense in a vacuum, but when you examine it from Apple, from people's expectations, from pricing strategies to how it works currently, it doesn't work for me. Maybe Apple will prove me wrong. I'm happy to hear it. Let's see some new stuff go on. Let's have 2 events a year, maybe spread this out. This helps us a little bit in our coverage and how we discuss Apple. Like there are benefits to doing this type of thing. But then your iPhones are colliding with your spring events for iPads and stuff. Do you de-emphasize iPads for iPhone, your best-selling device? How do you discuss Macs? Like, do these events need to happen? Do they need to get bigger? Do they need to get smaller? I don't know. I liked as chaotic as it was for us, I liked the pandemic. Once a month, here's 30 minutes on the upcoming products. That was kind of interesting. But moving on, this cycle is interesting. I'm going to continue placing my bet that the iPhone Fold isn't going to happen, and especially if the iPhone Fold is punted, this new release cycle isn't going to happen because it becomes unnecessary. And then we just get all of the iPhone 18s this fall. And then once that happens, we know that this new schedule isn't happening. And I'll be right both times. But we'll see what happens come this fall. Maybe there'll be an iPhone Fold and a crazy new release cycle, and I'm wrong on both counts. I don't care if I'm wrong here. It's just instinctually it doesn't make sense, and I'm going to go ahead and put my bet today, as I have on the Fold, but on this release cycle as well. Maybe it's just these analysts reading too much into some tea leaves that they have, that they're reading it wrong.
I would take that bet, except I have no money to put on it because I bought an iPad and a Mac Studio and all this stuff. Yes, I'll send you a coffee if you're right. How's that? This episode is brought to you by Aura Frames, but maybe stop listening to me and just go buy one. Or several, actually, because it is Christmas, and this is that kind of gift that you can buy last minute, but which still feels extra personal, because Aura frames is the gift where you give someone a beautiful photograph to put on their wall or their shelf or their desk, and the photo changes. It changes automatically every few moments. It can change because they swipe to the next one, or it can change because you change it even if you're nowhere near. This is what makes Aura frames special. It is a digital photo frame that when you give it to someone, never once opened, they get it. It comes out of the box, out of the wrapping paper, whatever it is, with any photos you want already loaded onto it. Through the Aura Frames app, you can load those photos. You can select photos. You can also invite family and friends to join in. Everyone can send photos to the frame, and they can do it from anywhere. Well, nearly anywhere. I was just away on a Northern Lights cruise with practically no internet anywhere. But whenever a ship would dock into a port like Tromsø, I could use the local 5G to send a photo of huskies to my Aura frame in my living room. Now, I know you're thinking I wasn't at home, but my family was, and they could see what a great time I was having, and they weren't. All right, okay, maybe you need to select your images carefully, but you can select them. You can change them. Really, what you can do is get those photos out of your iPhone where you never look at them and display the lot, display the best ones for you, for your family, for your friends. And if you buy an Aura frame as a Christmas present, you can add a personalised message before it even arrives. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named number 1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code AppleInsider at checkout. That's Aura Frames, AURA frames.com, promo code AppleInsider. This deal is exclusive to listeners and frames sell out fast, so order yours now in time for the holidays. Support the show too by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply, and thanks to Aura Frames for supporting the Apple Insider podcast and letting me share those Huskies photos.
So, moving on to some other Apple leaks. If you can't tell, there isn't a whole lot to get to this week, so we're going to focus a little bit on more iPhone Fold just for a moment. I have a question for you. So, I don't know if either of us are in the market for this device, but if you were to get one, or if Tim Cook was just to hand you one for free, how much would you care if it was Touch ID versus Face ID?
Oh, good point. I would deeply miss Face ID, because remember, I just bought an iPad. I spent a long time debating the iPad Air versus the iPad Pro because I wanted the bigger screen, and one of the things was I found using the iPad Air, it was just going to be tedious with that touch thing. But I am more in the market for a Fold than you. I was just at a Royal Television Society Awards, and I noticed quite a few people were actually taking photographs of the winners with foldable phones, and I thought actually they look pretty good. I mean, I wasn't very close to them. I didn't get to handle any of them, but they looked rather handy, and they were taking photographs portrait instead of landscape, so what can you do? But I really quite like the idea of a Fold because I like the iPhone and I like my iPad, so something that folds out to be a bit of both, I could be up for it. I just expect it's going to be really expensive, so you're just looking at me now. You wouldn't touch it, would you? No. Okay.
I saw my first ever foldable in the wild this weekend.
Really?
Yeah, it took this long. So it was fine.
It's been years since I saw my first. Somebody I was working with had one and adored it. But that's like 5 years ago now. Wow.
And I've seen photos of them, and I saw one on social media go around. Like you said, someone at an event taking photos. I think this was like a school play or something.
Right.
And they were just bemused by how Instagram looked on this large display. They're still technologically very interesting devices. Like, as a nerd, I like the idea of a foldable, but I can't get over the compromises. I cannot buy this device if it does not have a pro camera system, period. I mean, theoretically, I could own an iPhone Fold and then go buy a nice camera to replace my iPhone camera system, but I don't want to have to do that. The whole point of the iPhone is for it to be my camera as well. So No, thank
Well,
you.
you don't have. Well, you don't. I suppose you do have the option. You're on the iPhone upgrade program, so you could elect to move from what you've got now to a Fold. I was thinking, because I've actually thought about this. If I bought a Fold, I would probably keep my iPhone 16 Pro Max and use that as my main camera. But then that's carrying two devices and stuff, so it's not very practical.
So again, so currently I have an iPhone 17 Pro Max and an iPad Mini. And there's a rumor that says the iPhone Fold could open to an iPad mini size, which I thought was always the case. Maybe not as oblong, but this is suggesting that the phone would be more squat when folded, almost wallet-sized, which makes sense to me. That's the form factor I would want out of a foldable. A little more squat when it's folded, unfold it into an iPad mini. But it would fit better in a pocket anyway.
Oh, true. That sounds great to me. Yeah.
Yeah, if it has the camera system, I would consider it. And I'm willing to bet Apple has some solution for the crease. And I've heard from users that the crease isn't that big a deal. Even if it's there, you don't notice it. At the end of the day, though, I like my iPad mini because it's a pocket-sized iPad that has a gorgeous display that's only going to get better now with OLED coming this year. There isn't a crease in my iPad mini. I don't have to ignore it. It's not there.
Right.
But also, I understand that I can't fold it up. But guess what? It still fits in my jeans pocket. It's an incredibly sized device. So if all I'm getting from the iPhone Fold is a pocketable iPad mini, I already have that. I know I'm wearing men's pants, but my point is...
I was going to ask, because, it's a long time since I used an iPad mini, and it wasn't mine, so I wasn't going to shove it in my pocket, but it doesn't feel... Every time I've held one, in the Apple Store or something, it has felt bigger than pocket size. I assumed you meant jacket pocket, because it would probably do that, but jeans?
Well, it fits in my hoodie, it fits in my cardigan, and it fits in my jeans. I wear these Mack Weldon jeans that are...
Right.
Moderately sized, right? Like I'm not a very fairly large person, and their jean pocket is fine, and I can slip it is almost too small, but it fits in that pocket if I need it to. It's not something I do very often. It's just I'm pointing out it's not that
it's possible,
not portable currently. It's already a fairly good device. Honestly, I've said it before. If the iPad Mini could have the iPhone Pro display and camera system, it would just be my phone. I would not carry an iPhone anymore because I don't need my iPhone to be small. I'm fine with it being an iPad mini. So making it a foldable where it's twice as thick when closed, does that really advantage me? Compromising the battery life, compromising the structural integrity, compromising the display, and we know it's not going to have the Pro camera system. So compromising that as well, it's just not a better experience to me.
But it will be twice as thick closed as open, but that's not the same as twice as thick as an iPad, because we don't know how thin each side is going to be.
It would
Plus,
be thinner.
I imagine, I'm guessing here, but I would imagine that a foldable iPhone could have a battery on both sides of it, and that would sort of help with the capacity.
Yes, but we also know that smaller battery cells can wear out quicker and need replacement.
Good point. I didn't think of that. Right. Oh. I thought it was so clever there, but I wasn't. All right.
So I'm looking at my iPad mini, and it is chunky. It is thick, but it is still thinner than my iPhone Pro Max by a significant margin.
Right. And
then I put my iPhone Pro Max against the iPad mini, and it definitely is wider than two iPhones. And my iPhone is taller, so this would definitely have to be a squat and wide iPhone, almost a square, for it to open up to this device. But again, I don't know, we're at the point today. So I've described it on the show before. I'll describe it here now because I found it so fascinating. When I was still on Android, I owned a Sony Xperia Z Ultra. I still have it in a backpack somewhere. My phone still powers on. I have the Ultra tablet. It does not work anymore, but my phone still does. This is a 2013-14 era device. Anyway, at the time, Sony was like, hey, phablets are getting too big. We understand that. So here's what we're going to do for you. Keep your Sony Xperia phone in your pocket or in your bag. because you're only going to use it when you're like sitting completely still and you're sitting down to read a book or something. So when your phone rings instead, this is before AirPods, pull out a smaller phone that is Bluetooth connected to your Xperia Ultra and answer the phone on that.
Huh.
And I found that hilarious. And I actually wanted one. I never bought it. I wish I had now just to have it as a trinket. But because I don't think you can even find that on the web anymore. I have no idea what it was called. I don't know. There's no way I'll ever find a photo of it. But my point is, that was silly. But now we have AirPods and Apple Watch. So if my phone can just be a tablet, not a foldable, just a tablet, I don't need my phone to be this tiny little thing. I can keep it in my bag. I can read notifications and see photos on my watch. I can hear and have conversations or listen to music and podcasts through my AirPods. I could even see information on my glasses ultimately. So the need for a foldable still feels like this is an old concept, an old technology that is no longer necessary. This is 2015 stuff, 2019 stuff. It just doesn't feel like it's necessary. It feels wrong to me.
You've made this argument, you mentioned glasses there, but when we talked about it before, you made the argument that Apple Vision Pro or the like removes the need for a foldable thing. And I still think the convenience of being able to just use the phone as a phone, but then when I need to do more work, pull it out and do more. Particularly with the one I saw that was a tri-folding one. I like it because I'm not a headset user like you. I think
I can't wait for the foldable that has to open like a map, and you have like 6 different creases, and you can never close it quite right.
That's true. Okay, yes.
Because I think 2 folds, 2 creases is absurd. I get it. You get a larger display yet again, but also it's as thick as a flashlight when you close it. Like, I don't get it. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, the technology is interesting in a vacuum, but I feel like we as humanity have moved well beyond the need for this stuff. So we've had enough on foldables. I want to cover a couple of these other leaks.
Is that because it sounded like we were starting to get to a fight there?
No.
Clearly on Pro Fold side. We'll find out which of us is right.
You're Pro Fold, but you'll never buy one.
Maybe next. It has a strong chance, because it's going to be so expensive when it happens, if it happens. Yes.
Prohibitively expensive, again, for a device that replaces the functionality of a $500 iPad mini. Just saying, why did we need to pay $2,000 and get a worse experience than a $500 tablet?
Okay. Well, if it comes in blue, so,
People still, these are the questions I ask of people, and they're like, but it folds. I'm like, why? Why is that so important?
This episode is brought to you by Copilot Money. Copilot Money is a personal finance app that aims to help you be in control of your money by tracking your spending and keeping on top of your accounts. The developers recognize that we're all different. I mean, both in the way we spend our money, but also how we regard finances. So Copilot Money is designed to be comprehensive, but entirely customizable. You can use the elements that you need and not be overwhelmed by countless options that don't apply to you or to what you need to do. Copilot Money is easy to use, easy to customize, and so much so that it is an Apple Design Awards finalist. And now, 2026, that is the time to start using Copilot Money because we are all having to be more aware of our finances. I mean, that's true everywhere with the economy, but as it happens, where I am here in the UK, there are tax changes coming. That means people like me are having to just reassess how we spend, how we record, how we report spending as well. With Copilot Money, you can monitor all of your accounts, you can set up savings goals, and do it across the Mac, iPhone, iPad, and web. I used to put off finances, right? I would put it off until I'll do that when I get back to my Mac in my office. But you know what that means. Really, it's putting it off and never doing it. And then, you get into such confusion, such mess. With Copilot Money, you think of something you need to add, well, you just reach for your nearest device, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and you enter it. And while entering your transactions, for instance, is very quick and very easy, Copilot Money takes what you enter and uses AI to automatically categorize everything so you can see right away where your money is going. Try Copilot Money free with a 1-month trial on iPhone, iPad, Mac, and web. Plus, for a limited time, you can get 26% off your first year when you sign up at copilot.money/AppleInsider and use the code AppleInsider at checkout. That's copilot.money/AppleInsider and the code AppleInsider. New users only, web only. Start the new year with clarity. Your money beautifully organised now across every device. And thanks to Copilot Money for supporting the Apple Insider Podcast.
Okay. iMac Pro could return.
Yes, isn't that great? I mean, yeah, let's be steady here. Believe it when it happens, but still, I'd like to see that happen. That'd be fun, that would. Yeah? No? You're not with me on iMacs either. What is today?
I don't think it'll be called iMac Pro. It'll just be an iMac with an M5 Max, which would be cool. I believe Apple's been testing putting higher end chips, because remind me, it's M5, M5 Pro, M5 Max, M5 Ultra.
Yeah.
So Max would be the upper echelon that you normally only see in the studio or in high-end MacBooks.
Yes.
From other rumors I believe we've seen, and correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't there a rumor that the Mac Mini would also be getting a Max chip at some point?
Oh, I don't remember that one. I always thought you meant there was actually there were 2 iMac rumors this week, and I'm wondering whether it's the same thing in different directions. I didn't know about the Mac Mini. That would make sense, wouldn't it? Mac Mini is a great machine. Make it greater. You know what I mean? Yeah.
The reason why before we didn't get these chips in these machines isn't because Apple was being stingy. It's because of cooling. These high-end chips would have to be throttled to a great extent to make them work, which then they would be no better than their lower-end counterparts.
Oh,
so
right.
Why bother? But now Apple has this handy new technology they introduced with the iPhone, vapor chamber cooling. So these passive devices that don't have fans can now be cooled easier, allowing a higher-end chip. Now, it's still not the Ultra. The Ultra needs a fire department on standby to run. But
it's possible.
It's possible. The iMac has such a large surface area. Imagine just slapping a giant heatsink in there, or the Mac Mini on top of it. That large head would be a perfect heatsink, and then there you go. You have the Max capable chips. Again, I don't think they would call this an iMac Pro. I think it would just be an iMac with a higher configuration. But it answers the call of, I just want an all-in-one with a bunch of performance. Here you go.
I said that there were 2 iMac rumors. The other one that did come out a couple of days apart was that Apple is looking to put an OLED screen into the 24-inch iMac, which doesn't seem like a surprise, but because since you're trying to go OLED everywhere, but it seems quite possible that that's coming maybe in 27, something like that. And I was wondering whether that actually was not the only thing being done to the iMac, and that this M5 Max thing might appear in a 24-inch iMac with an OLED screen. Because I think the thing with the iMac Pro was that it was 27 inches, and I loved my old 27-inch regular iMac. I miss the fact that there aren't larger screen ones, but I wonder, whether these 2, whether it's the same rumour from 2 different directions, which, I mean, is that good or bad? I don't know, but I liked the iMac Pro when I would see them. So,
see, listeners, what William actually wants is the Apple Odyssey 48-inch ultra wide.
49, please.
49. I'm sorry. Yeah, I missed one there. Yeah. Ultra wide iMac.
That'd be good.
Yeah,
with a better resolution screen. I should say I have a Samsung Odyssey 49-inch thingy which is great width, but the height is poor and the resolution isn't as good as anything. So yes, if Apple did that and it was not the price of a car, then I was going to say
a Retina display on that size of a monitor at Apple's quality would be like $40,000.
But wouldn't it be so good?
It would be
So
very,
good.
very fancy.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and say, listeners, give up on a 27-inch iMac. It's just not happening, at least not in the next 5 years. It's just they don't exist. Apple, there's no signs of them. It's not happening. If you want a 27-inch or greater display, buy a desktop and buy your own monitor. That's Apple's, at least that seems to be Apple's stance currently.
I realise I can't remember how big the Studio Display is, or the Pro Display XDR. Are they... I've always been agog at how good they look. I've not noticed the size.
Studio Display is 27 inches. Pro Display XDR, I believe, is 32. That's why it's the higher K. It's 6K.
Right.
And the 24 inches, 4.5K to maintain that retina.
Yeah.
So moving on. So I don't think we need to get into this because it's... So Macworld got a hold... From what I can gather, someone accidentally, I guess, and this must have been China or something, but they purchased an iPhone from a third party or something, and they quote unquote accidentally received a internal model with a build of some version of iOS 26 on it that did not have all of this stuff turned off. Because what happens is when we get a version of iOS, they basically turn off all of the developmental side things. They turn off all these flags that basically hide everything that you shouldn't see as a user. It's not that it's hidden, it's just gone. It's removed from the final build. But someone purchased a phone that had all of this still in place so they could see feature flags for iOS 26.4, iOS 27, iOS 29, right? And so this allowed them... There was nothing there. They didn't spoil WWDC. But what they were able to gather is a lot of what we gathered earlier this year. Apple Insider got a hold of some information from an insider who helped us gather some of the Mac lineup and future... what are they called? Identifiers for future releases. And so we reported on that back in October. So a lot of this is a repeat of those identifiers, but it was interesting to see, like, again, AirTag 2. There's a couple of feature flags by some of these, like how AirTag 2 is going to be easier to find in a crowd or if it's moving. Stuff like that. Nothing huge, nothing revolutionary, just another... post in the field saying this is happening, these devices are coming, but not really much to discuss. It's all a bunch of identifiers.
Except there's one thing I don't understand, Inspector. Somebody buys an iPhone, it turns out to be this one that has this unreleased build in it. How could they possibly know unless they went into the code to look for these things? It would presumably just work like a regular iPhone.
Clearly, because this is where the story gets choppy. Because all I know is someone mistakenly got this phone, or maybe they quote unquote mistakenly got this phone. But the person who got this was obviously already a code sleuther type person and was expecting to get some sort of device to run some sort of tests on or something. I don't know. I don't have any information. This is something I saw describing the event on social media, so I don't have any insider information on this occurrence. But it appears that this person was expecting one thing, they got much more than they expected and reported it to Macworld, which, great. Macworld shared it across like 6 different posts. We covered it. You can see our coverage. It's fine. There's nothing to talk about here. You can go look at these things. Again, it's just the identifiers and maybe a hint at a feature in iOS 26, 27, but nothing we can really get into now. One last thing for leaks. The budget MacBook could come in 2 flavors.
That's not just 2 different... Oh, do you mean 2 different sizes or 2 colors? Or
Apple could release a lower-end model that is A15 powered and a mid-tier model that is A something else powered. I need to find the specific chip.
Oh, right. A17. I think I heard that rumored a while ago.
Yes.
For it. Or I'm honestly no
Pro.
more than 18 Pro. Okay. I just can't count today. I wonder how they differentiate them. Well, by price, presumably. Okay.
They
Right.
clearly everyone thinks Apple's going to aim for that Walmart MacBook price. I think that's $600 if I'm remembering correctly, which would be an incredible entry point for the MacBook.
Yeah.
The most popular device sold in the Mac lineup is the MacBook Air at $999. Imagine a $600 version of that running an iPhone chip, but that's fine. It's all it needs these days. An A15 though. That is a 2021 chipset.
Oh, the iPhone 13. Wow.
Yeah, that doesn't feel right.
Well, I
Now-
mean, maybe they've got a lot of them left over or something. I mean, that's got to happen.
See, that's the other
Sometimes.
problem. Apple tends to update chips only so they can abandon them. That's what happens a lot of the times with Apple TV or HomePod. When we get this future HomePod that comes out, there's a good chance it'll just be a chipset update and nothing else, and just because they don't want to keep using this S8 from 9 years ago or whatever. It's interesting that they're testing. So the leak it's from Weibo. Kang mentions that Apple is testing a MacBook with an A15 and a MacBook with an A18 Pro. Now, maybe they're just seeing how it runs on this lower end chipset, and when they actually release it, it'll just be an A19, and then they'll have an A19 Pro or an A20 Pro or whatever it is at the time. Sure, I could see that being like how they handle this 2-tier optionality. Instead of it being an M5 Pro, an M5 and an M5 Pro, it'll be a one version of the iPhone chip and a higher end version of that, or whatever modern iPhone chip we're using in the base model and Pro model. Those would just become what is in the MacBook base model. So there's a million ways to do this. I think this makes some amount of sense because Apple's price ladder, you can't just have a MacBook at $600 and then nothing until $900. There needs to be something in between.
What's the difference in the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro? That is under 300, isn't it? So, well, I mean, base level and top levels and things. So, yes, that makes sense.
Yeah, $999 for MacBook Air, and I believe the cheapest, like I think has fewer ports, 14-inch MacBook Pro with an M series chip is $1199, so it's $200.
Right. And there's less of a gap between the highest configuration MacBook Air and the lowest configuration Pro. So they do try to hit most price points. Why wouldn't they continue and go lower? Because isn't there an argument that the Apple's always avoided doing, quotes, cheap devices because that detracts away from their more profitable ones?
Well, so we have a Mac Mini, which goes on sale quite often for, I believe, $699, maybe $799. Like it's a very inexpensive machine by comparison. And MacBooks are obviously more expensive to make because they're more miniaturized. They have a display. There's obviously things going on here to make that price difference. But having a MacBook in the Mac Mini price range would be killer for Apple. And it wouldn't be, quote unquote, cheap. It would just be inexpensive. Compared to other things, there would still always be on the market a $199 Chromebook.
A Chromebook
that barely turns on and runs a browser. One last bit before we close up, because we are. I'm glad those topics took up the time they did, because again, there wasn't a whole lot to talk about this week. But I started a project yesterday as we record.
Yeah.
At the behest of Mike Worthley, our managing editor, he was here a couple weeks ago, because the information came out with an update to their Apple leadership page. With the first update they did in like 6 years, and they were like, yeah, barely anything changed except for like 3 names got shuffled, which is what we discussed these last couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. And Mike was like, hey, what if we did a story on Apple's AI team? And I think this story isn't even coming out till next week, so this is a little preview. But what I set out to do was, okay, this can't be that hard, right? It's the head. His name's difficult to pronounce. If it's in front of me, I can read it, but it's hard. I don't have the recall for it yet. Amar Subramanyana.
Right.
I stumble over that last syllable every time. I can hear it in my head. Subramanya. Anyway, he's taking over the AI team as a senior vice president. Or what? I'm sorry, did I say that wrong? SVP.
Yeah, senior vice president. That's right.
No. See, I mixed it up. He is a vice president of AI, and he's now reporting up one tier. Yes, so he's there. The AI team is no longer a C tier suite that reports directly to Tim Cook. That's right. So anyway, Amar is at this tier, and then he has people below him. And the question was, how many? What does Apple's AI team look like? Because we see these reports frequently about senior manager leaves. Right, that's a lot of Gurman's stories about Apple's AI team bleeding out or whatever has been about these senior managers leaving, not executives necessarily, but like these higher ends, these people that were big gets from Google or whatever, departing Apple. What are they going to do? That kind of situation. And it was about a dozen or so, maybe 15 now, departures over the past year from what you would call middle management, not executive, not vice president, but below that, just not your average employee. Because if you look at employee departures, it's more like a few dozen have departed over the past year, as far as we know. Mostly with Gianandrea's departure, stuff like that, and poachings from Meta. So the concept was, let's compile a list of Apple's team as we know it, because they publish papers in Apple's ML team, right? It's one of the only places on earth. Apple is so secretive, they don't even want employees telling people they work for Apple or what division they're in. At the most you might see on social media is, I work for Apple, right? There's a few that creep through that are allowed to do this, that say, I work for the passwords team, or I help develop this part of this system. I follow a few people who work for like Apple Maps, right? They're out there. They're just told, maybe don't, because if you're public about working for Apple, then you can't have a personalized account, because now everything you say reflects Apple, and we don't like that. Right. So they tend to be a lot more secretive. So anyway, I go through this research paper, and I'm like, there's 96 pages of research. So nearly 1,000 papers published in this documentation, right? So I decide, all right, I'm not going to do that. That's insane. I'm going to start from page 10 and work to page 1. Okay. William, I got to page 8 and had to give up.
Oh, I see. Right.
There's so many people.
Right, but this inescapably reminds me of Watergate. One of the ways that people were found through it was Woodward and Bernstein went through the phone directories of the White House and worked out from the numbers and the extension numbers who worked for who, and so who would know what where and things. And you've just been doing the modern equivalent of that. That's proper journalism digging there, except you gave up after 2 pages. So, okay.
Well, it's not the most scientific thing, but my methodology is this. Apple marks everyone in a research paper that does not belong to Apple or has since left Apple. They do 2 asterisks and say work done while at Apple, meaning they are no longer at Apple. So I didn't put those on the list. And then there was like, this is a college professor. This is a scientist from blah. So everyone that wasn't marked with anything could reasonably be assumed is an Apple person. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some secret third thing that I don't know about, but so I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe after a page or 2, these names will start repeating, and then I'll have a list of like 60 solid people, right? Because the word from Gurman and other reports have been Apple's AI team is in the quote-unquote dozens, right? What does dozens mean to you, William? It can't get, like, is 80 dozens? Is 100 dozens? When does it stop being dozens?
No, after 48, I think you're starting to talk about half 100 and things like that. Dozens doesn't scale very well, at least not in headlines and things. So, no.
I made it through 2 or maybe 3 full pages of these reports, right? And each page has like 10 results or whatever. I had a list of 200 people across 6 divisions, William.
Right.
I had to stop. I was like, these names are becoming more and more meaningless as I go along. It's hard for me to find duplicates like this. I am wasting so much effort for so little payout because no one's going to read this list. No one's going to care. Because the next step, William, had it been 40 people, was, all right, let's go to LinkedIn and search each of these names and like see what their LinkedIn profile says about what they do at Apple, and then tie them to a project they're working on. And then we were going to submit that as a story. Doing that for 200, probably more like 400 or 500, William, I would have never been done. We're talking January before I would have finished this.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn, as interesting as it is, there are people who are just not allowed to put their stuff on LinkedIn, like you said about can't say for Apple. There are others who puff up their pieces. Well, I once walked through the AI section at Apple when they're trying to get work. And then there are people like me that do have a LinkedIn profile and must have set it up one time, but have forgotten about it completely. So it's interesting, but you can't do a statistical analysis.
Well, see, the thing is I wasn't completely stupid about this. Before I got started, I grabbed a few names and searched them on LinkedIn, and they had profiles with information. They showed, I currently work at Apple, I came from college, or I came from this company, this AI startup or whatever. So that was enough. That's all I really wanted was, who is this person? Do they work for Apple? Right. Where did they come from? To kind of gauge Apple's strength in AI, their team advantage. Like, we were going to have a larger discussion about, and this piece is still coming out. It's just not going to have a list of names because it's like, what do I do? Pick 10? It's meaningless. It doesn't matter. So we're scrapping the name idea. It was still useful data though. So I'm not mad that I did it. It's just, I couldn't keep going. It became pointless to continue. But so the story will still come out sometime next week during the Christmas week for whatever reason. We'll see when that releases. I'm sure you guys will see it come through. But anyway, the point was to say, again, as I've said in my other reports, with less, now I have a little bit more of a substantial proof. The blood went into the work. But before I was saying it, now it's reinforced by this of these random departures that Gurman gets scoops on are completely pointless to discuss out of context because we don't know if them leaving was planned, who is replacing them, what they provided to the team, and if the team is going to suffer without them. All we know is that someone left.
Yeah.
And that's it. And a dozen or so middle managers and maybe a few dozen lower-end employees leaving over the course of a year. Meaningless when you have several hundred employees working on AI at Apple across multiple teams, publishing papers constantly. Just for December, I believe there's 30 reports that have already been published from Apple and their AI teams.
Goodness.
So there's this, and I'll let you speak. There's this narrative on one hand of Apple doesn't know what they're doing. They're listless. Their leadership. There's chaos. Nothing is happening at Apple. And the people not paying attention or doing the research are like, yeah, you're right. It seems like Apple Intelligence, all you can do is generate an emoji. It's stupid. And then there's what's actually happening, which is these, several hundred employees from across many different networks, across many different backgrounds, are working on this upgraded Apple Intelligence that had to get delayed to fix to basically move Siri to an LLM platform and revitalize how it attaches to app intents. And all of these research papers being done and all of this stuff being done inside of Apple. But just because it's not public doesn't mean nothing is happening. But that is a less interesting story and gets you less clicks, William. So it's frustrating as someone who covers this stuff. Now, now I've done the legwork to really say this. It's so ridiculous that the stock market moves when Mark Gurman puts out a story that a middle manager departed for Meta. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm not sure you're going to want me to speak here because it'd be quite nice if you went back and did that research again, because you mentioned that thing of people marked as having basically left Apple. I'd be interested to know what proportion of all the people you looked at that applied to, and whether that was the majority of people. We can't work out duration. You can do it.
So from what I looked at, out of the 200 or so names that I wrote down, a lot of the research papers had several external helpers, like I said, colleges and stuff.
Right.
But every now and then a name would pop up with a couple of asterisks saying work done while at Apple. meaning they departed. It was fairly rare, once every few reports, and often the name was a repeat name. So we're talking about 5 people out of 200. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe 10 people out of 200, but it was a low percentage of departures versus my list of current people contributing research. And again, this is 200 people, unique names out of 3 of 96 pages of research. So I can only imagine how many names there are.
Whereas I can imagine you spending the entirety of Christmas and a break working through exactly this data, which
you could probably pay a lot of money
impressive.
to have some generative AI crawl this list and grab every unique name. I don't care that much. The point is made from what I was able to gather. There is something happening with AI at Apple. They're not resting on their laurels, and I'm very excited for the spring. And I hope that those teams that have been working so hard get to finally have a very public, loud win when this stuff finally releases and it works and it's interesting. And people, I fully expect we're going to see the Apple effect take place, are going to look at this and say, wow, nobody else can do this.
I hope you're right. It's just I'm more pro-fold than you. I'm more warily anti this because I feel so burned by Siri. I mean, Siri not doing something new, okay, disappointing. Siri being considerably worse than it ever was before does not encourage me with the fact that it's going to magically improve in the future. It's like it shouldn't have gone backwards, even if it didn't go forwards. So
I agree. And remember, this isn't just Siri that we're talking about. It is a multi-step ecosystem for AI, but Siri is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we'll close up there before we run too long, but I hope everyone has an excellent holiday break. I hope that, whatever you're celebrating, it goes well. We'll be having a little Christmas Eve dinner with our family, and then Christmas Day is going to be spent snuggled up in pajamas watching movies with some cocoa. So very excited for some time off. And William, British people celebrate Christmas and stuff too, so I'm sure you'll be enjoying yourself.
We've been known to, yes. I actually have Christmas Eve kind of routine. I call it a Lagrange point, a moment of absolute stillness despite all the stuff going on around you. And during that time, for about 10 years now, I've watched the film Arrival for it. It's become like my midnight mass, because I actually saw it once in the cinema around midnight on Christmas Eve. And so I've been doing it since, except this year, I'm going to be watching it over AirPods and on my M5 iPad Pro. And it is going to be so gorgeous. I am really looking forward to it again. Yeah.
The way it was meant to be seen, of course, by the directors.
Exactly. Yes.
All right. So normally this is where we would read podcast reviews, and I wanted to get to that. But first, you can find me on Blue Sky, hilly.tech, Mastodon, Hilly Tech as well. And I write a weekly blog summarizing the news of the week for Apple. I'm really trying to expand on that, but man, time is still difficult to find for this. So at the very least, it's weekly. And William, where can people find you?
I think probably at the moment the best place is either william@appleinsider.com, email, although I'm still behind catching up from my holiday, or on YouTube, where I have a 58 Keys channel, which is very explicitly for writers. But there's a nice group of people chatting away on there. I like that place.
Yeah, and I'm also Wes@appleinsider.com for email if you want to reach me there. And if you want to leave a review for the show, you can do so, and we will read it here for Apple Podcasts. Just go to Apple Podcasts and say what you want to say. 1 to 5 stars, doesn't matter. We will share it here on the show. We love your feedback, positive, negative, what have you. You can critique us on the show, tell us that our format is terrible. Whatever you want to say, we will happily share it here. But I will say that just in light of recent, I would say maybe the last year of how intense things have gotten politically in the United States, we did shift to having something called Controversy Corner to help the news be skippable if you don't want to hear about those things or our opinions on those things. Obviously, some news stories do bleed over into policy, and William and I do share our opinions, and that frustrates people. I understand. But that stuff isn't going to change, and we're going to continue doing Controversy Corner as it's needed. It's not every episode. But I will say the reviews that focus on being particularly upset and loud and usually insulting about political content in the show will not be shared in this segment. And I'm only going to say it here and say it this one time, but moving forward, if you leave a 1-star review and you're just super upset about our political stance or insulting us or whatever, what have you about politics, it won't be read here. We don't need to air that here. It's not relevant to the show. It's not going to change the show. But again, if you have legitimate critiques and it's a 1-star review, we're not going to stop reading that. It's fine. If you want to leave us a 1-star review and it's legitimate and you have a critique, we will read it here. We're not going to avoid the bad news. Don't worry. But we also love hearing your 5-star reviews. So please keep leaving those. We love hearing from you guys week to week. There wasn't any to share this week. So hopefully maybe over the holiday, we'll have a couple to share. That'll be a nice little Christmas gift for William and I. We'd love to hear some of your 5-star remarks. But that's it for the show this week. I'd like to thank our sponsors once again, Aura Frames and Copilot Money. And we're going to get to Apple Insider Plus, which is the paid ad-free version of the show. You can pay over Patreon or Apple Podcasts and get this extended edition of the show where this week we're going to talk about what part of Apple that we'd want to run and what would we change. So, William, anything else on our way out?
I'm just quite excited about this time of year. I don't know why. We've got there's hardly going to be any more devices coming out, and I can't afford if there are anyway. But it's not. I feel like we're heading into that time of period where whether you celebrate Christmas or not, things slow down, unless you're working, I suppose. You're kind of forced to do less because people don't respond to things. You have a break in some way, and you can actually enjoy some of these devices that we've been working on so hard over the year.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to some time off to organize my home screen. But everyone, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, enjoy your break, and we will be back next week.